I know that already. I've heard that before. Kias, know it already, know it alls. Have you ever dealt with people who are arrogant? I know that already. I don't need to learn anymore. And wouldn't it be an interesting place to be in where you think you know everything? I'm a very old lady. I've lived on the planet a very long time. And all I know from all the learning that I do every single day, all that's taught me is I don't know very much and I have to keep learning. So how do you deal with people that are arrogant? They know everything already. And there's probably a better question. Why do you need to? Why do you need to change people? If somebody thinks they know everything, I just smile, nod and walk away. I don't want to have those people in my life because if I ever say I know that already, what happens to my ability to learn anymore? What happens to my ability to grow, to expand my brain, to become wiser, better? Obviously, I cancel it out. So if somebody says to me, I know that already, I've heard that before, I don't need to learn anymore, I don't want to have those people in my life. So I just smile, nod and walk away. I can't do anything about that. Isn't that a beautiful way to be able to respond to everything? It's called response-able. We can't change other people. No need to get stressed about them, annoyed by them, upset by them. Just let them be who they are and move on. Smile, nod and walk away. What I'm really concerned about is I don't want to be a know-it-all. I don't want to be arrogant. I want to keep learning. And as I shared, because I'm learning every day, it just makes me realise how little I know and why I want to keep learning. So why do we believe the things that we do? Why are there so many people convicted to their, this is my conviction, this is my opinion, and you should listen to me, versus this very great life philosophy that I've been living by for a very long time now, which is, I don't know. And more importantly, what if I'm wrong? And I think that's a way to stay, humble. You can't be arrogant because everything that's going on in your life, whatever you believe, whatever your opinion is, what if you're wrong? And here's a better question. Have you ever been wrong? And again, as an old lady who's lived on the planet a very long time, I've been wrong so many times. I love admitting it because it means I'm learning and growing. If somebody says I've never been wrong, or if you've met those people who are always right, wouldn't that be awesome? I'm always right. Are you really? Smile, nod and walk away is my way to respond to those people, because if you think you're always right, because there are some things that are right and wrong, there are some things that are true and false, yes, I get that, but most things have grey. Most things are opinions or their life experience or different cultures. We all have different life experience, which gives us a different perspective. And then if you ever watched a detective show on television or some kind of police show where they say to 100 people who saw the same event happen, what happened, what was the person wearing, what direction did they come from, how tall were they, what colour eyes did they have, everybody says something different. Very, very rare for a witness statement to be believed because the next person says something completely different, because we see things through our own eyes. I always get accused of having rose-coloured glasses, which is kind of cool because my name's Rowena, so yes, I have row-coloured glasses. But I always look at the positive spin. I can look at something and be I aim to turn that negative thing into a positive. There are a lot of people who do exactly the opposite, aren't they? They look at something that's just normal and they turn it into a negative. But whether that's right or wrong, it's just different. So how do you make sure that you stay humble, that you aren't arrogant, that you keep learning, you keep getting better if that's what you want to do? And could that be a really good idea? So there's just a quick analysis. I do this at least every week, but whether you do it once a month or once a year, I have a look at all the things that I really believe, that I'm convicted about. Like, it's not just an opinion, I really believe it to be true. And I ask myself, why do I think that? What caused me to have such a strong opinion, because that's all it is, about that particular thing? And of course, because I'm an exercise professional, food, exercise, how often, how much, what kind, they're all very interesting questions which I have been wrong about because, and this is the really interesting thing, the reason I was wrong is because I didn't study the human body. Have you noticed there are a lot of people that have opinions about food, eating, exercise, being healthy, being lean, getting into great shape, what you should do? But if you were to ask them some very basic questions about anatomy, physiology, endocrine system, central nervous system, digestive system, skeletal muscular system, some very simple questions, most of those people can't answer those simple questions because they haven't studied the human body. They're just regurgitating somebody else's opinion. The reason I share that is I often ask myself that question: do I believe this because somebody else told me? And if somebody else told me, why did I believe it? Was it because they looked good? Did they have a medical degree? Did they have 30 years experience? They're always really interesting questions, because when you dig down deep, and here's one of my favourite questions: follow the money. Who paid them to say that? Are they getting paid to say it? How much are they getting paid to say it? Are they using that product or service themselves? Would they recommend it to their family and friends? If I ever think that what somebody told me is true, they're the questions that I ask. Because I don't want to be the person that regurgitates somebody else's opinion. What about you? I don't want to be part of a crowd that everybody follows. I want to keep asking questions. And I'm very privileged. My father taught me that at a very young age. Always ask questions, believe nothing. That was just a great blanket statement. Believe nothing. Ask, why would I do that? How does it work? Research for yourself, study for yourself, analyze for yourself. Then there's three places that I always ask: my head, which is my logic; my heart, which is my passion; and my gut, which is that interesting connection between the gut and the brain. And there is now, we used to just talk about that, I've got a gut feeling, but now the endocrinologists will tell us, and the psychologists, neuroscientists will tell us, there's a very major connection between your gut and your head, because serotonin, which is a satisfaction neurotransmitter, is produced in your gut. So if you want to be satisfied with your life and your gut's telling you something else, then you really need to trust your gut, but not just your gut. What does your heart say? What does your head say? And is it possible that if you're constantly asking questions, you're constantly open to learning? And there's another great question I was asked a long time ago. Are you open to learning? And of course we all say, yes, I love to learn. But are you open to change? So even if you learn something, do you change? And the interesting thing to take note of, and again as an old lady, a lot of people, and this is why I don't ever give people advice, or I don't want to ever tell people what to do, because if somebody believes something and you tell them what to do, they'll often argue the point, not because they even think that they're right, they just get their back up because you told them what to do. So there's another big thing there. I don't want to hang out with arrogant people. I don't want to hang out with know-it-alls. I don't want to hang out with people that don't want to keep learning. So it's one of the things that if anybody comes into my inner circle or wants to come into my inner circle, that's one of the simple questions that I ask. Are you open to learning? Are you open to change? And I have some conversations about things that have changed over the years that most people still believe. Now, I'll rattle some off very quickly, and whether you believe them to be true or not, perhaps consider why you believe them if you do, or why you don't believe them if you don't. So in the exercise profession, you'll hear this all the time. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You need to do 3 sets of 10. You need to do 10,000 steps. You need to go to the gym 3 times a week. You need to do bicep curls for your biceps. You need to stop eating carbohydrate because it makes you fat. You need to drink 8 glasses of water every day. You need to sleep 8 hours. You need to work within your circadian rhythm, so you wake up at sunrise and you go to sleep at sunset. There's a whole heap of information that people are giving out on a regular basis, and you might go, yeah, I believe that, because if I say this, breakfast is most people finish the sentence for me, the most important meal of the day. If you believe that, why do you believe it? And then not just, oh, well, it makes sense to me, or it sounds good, or I trust my gut. But now go into the physiology of why would you eat first thing in the morning? And this is not right or wrong and whether you should or you shouldn't. But if you ate at midnight and you had a really big meal and then you go to bed, do you really need to eat first thing in the morning? That was one of the questions that I asked. If somebody says you need to drink 8 glasses of water, I always ask, well, what size are the glasses? And what if it's hot? What if I sweat a lot? What if I'm bigger? What if I'm smaller? What if I use my brain more? Is it really 8 glasses? And why would somebody say that? The big one for me, which completely changed my life, was 3 sets of 10. I was sitting in a massive conference in the United States, and the exercise physiologist was talking about, or he asked the question, he was a doctorate in exercise, we had a doctorate degree in exercise physiology, and he asked the question, why do we do 3 sets of 10? And I remember sitting there and I was so embarrassed because my father taught me to always ask questions. Why would I do that, and how does it work? When I came into the exercise profession, because these people looked so good and they were so accomplished and I was impressed by their impressiveness, I never asked any questions, I just believed. So when the exercise physiologist, doctor of, asked, why do we do 3 sets of 10? I was sitting in the front row and I remember thinking, please don't ask me, because the only answer I could come up with was that's what I learnt in my course. Somebody else told me that and I believed them. Why would that be true? Surely there has to be a better answer than I learnt that in my course, and of course there is a better answer, and it completely changed my life. So I'm in my begging position because as a parent, teacher, coach, boss, leader, as somebody who has influence over other people, if you have arrogant people in your life and you don't like it, would that be a great example of don't be arrogant? And if you don't want to come across as arrogant, if you want to be humble, and in a leadership role, isn't it important to set the example or live the example of somebody that's continually learning and growing, rather than, I know that already, and I cross my arms for that reason. Because people that know everything already become very defensive if you ever question why they know that. I want to be open to learning. I want to change if I've made a mistake. I want to admit that I've made a mistake. I don't want to have a reputation of being arrogant. I want to be known as a humble person that is continually growing and learning. How about you? So if you want to live your life to the max, and if you don't want to have arrogant people in your life, they're pretty easy to get rid of. You just smile, nod and walk away. And if you don't want to be known as an arrogant person, what do you need to do every day to keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding your brain? Which is why fresh air and sunshine and being out here, my puppy dogs are all sleeping at the moment, but they teach me so much every day. My dogs teach me so much every day. Isn't that awesome? I love negative, nasty, horrible gossiping, criticising people that come into my life, because I learn so much from them. Every expert that comes into my life, I often learn why they perhaps shouldn't call themselves an expert, because they completely disagree with somebody else. But I'm always studying, analysing, researching, training, because I want to expand my brain so I can literally live my life to the max every single day. Live your life to the max. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.